So you told me before we went live that there are some upcoming changes from a legislation perspective. Now, I don't even know how to stay informed or how to dig in to these different types of things. Can you talk about how an individual would go about following that type of thing to determine what changes are happening or where you get that type of information?
Yes. So first, I'd preface that there are some exciting things happening on Capitol Hill when it comes to legislation around cryptocurrencies or tokenization, and importantly, defining those two separately. That's been the whole holdup over the past however many years. What's a security? What's a cryptocurrency? What's a competing currency with the US dollar? And finally, we have either because it's lucrative as an industry or there's just been enough noise, we have an administration that wants to dive into the weeds, and it's become pretty bipartisan. I would say to keep up with that, because there is a lot of noise still, right? You have, I think it was Donald Trump Jr. saying, hey, there's going to be no uh, capital gains tax on cryptocurrencies made in the US. And that got people rallied up, but it wasn't actually a bill that was being pushed forward or has any sort of um, reality. It's not grounded in reality. Capital gains tax elimination on cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, and Donald Trump Jr. probably isn't the guy who's going to be able to he's probably not the one who pushes it through, you
No,
know?
no, just gets people excited, and he gets people
Right.
excited because he's going around talking at all these major events, and you're seeing more of that, with the Trump I forgot what their World Financial Liberty or Liberty whatever that is, that's making their rounds at the big events, and they're talking about how the US will be the center of attention. So there's still a lot of noise in that way. And a lot of it is on X or Twitter. That said, if you do want a lot of the breaking news, I think X and Twitter is the place to be. Like that's where you'll see the big headlines that hey, Bill XXX just passed the House and it's moving forward, and here's what it's going to allow banks to do. Here's how it changes SEC precedents. This is how it changes for issuers and what licenses you need. Here's how it makes us competitive to other jurisdictions like Hong Kong, whose monetary authority is working overtime to get cryptocurrencies mainstream, or the United Arab Emirates, right? Their land authority has new laws that allow deeds to be native to blockchains, which is massive. So you have regulatory changes on all different levels, whether it's like federal and record keeping, or more at like a confined state slash municipal level. Lots of changes happening. So, and the good old news headlines, like that's a good way to separate noise. News headlines from mainstream sources aren't going to proudly echo what Donald Trump Jr. has to say about crypto. They'll just push like, "Hey, this bill actually passed. Here's how it changes things, and here's what Jamie Dimon has to say about it," right? Or here's what Goldman Sachs is doing. So you'll see these big players being name dropped, being associated with the changes, and that's an indication that this is legit. This is actual change being rolled out, not just a bunch of excitements and daydreaming.
Yeah, and some people are I think that point about excitement and daydreaming and you bringing up Donald Trump Jr. is making a statement and how it can I mean, part of it is interest and excitement moves the needle on certain coins, and not to suggest that that's the. I mean, I don't want to get into like any type of down the rabbit hole politics conversation. Not that it surely is worth having, but not to say whether or not Donald Trump Jr. is trying to influence the market, but it's so critical to be informing yourself intelligently because there are people who are trying to do that type of thing. So being able to get good, solid, accurate information as it relates to cryptocurrency or just these types of highly technical happenings in general is really important. Um, any tips on specific people? It sounds like you kind of recommend maybe a smattering of folks and trying to get the full picture. Is there anybody that you'd say, hey, like this Twitter account or this?
No, there isn't anyone in particular that I tune into, and I realize that the way that I addressed the question was on the regulatory side of things, like what's the official news and the happenings when it comes to the legality of all of this. But you could just look at like what's XRP doing with this bank, right? And that still legitimatizes the technology at an institutional level, but you have to look towards official press releases for that are coming out from the institutions and these corporations themselves saying this is the new partnership that we have, here's how our technology is going to be applied. And I think that's just where you have to source a lot of that information, because when you have a market that is as malleable as the crypto market, where one tweet misinterpreted could pump a coin and within the next 30 minutes also rug that coin, and people are selling and taking profits,
Right.
you don't want to get caught up in that. And it's all done on purpose. Like it's meant to be very stimulating so that money flows into particular investments that are associated with the news, and then someone is going to walk away. So any sort of newsflash that is uh, higher quality and is a legitimate monumental shift for the industry recognizes that, and they're very careful about how they roll that information out, because it would be like insider trading. Like you can't say, hey, we have a brand new weapon of mass destruction that's going to be rolled out by um, Texas Instruments. It's going to be utilized, and oh, timely. There's a new war, right? A lot of that would be deemed insider trading because you're dropping insight on this, and you know what's happening next. So they're very careful about how this information comes out and when you're dealing with the big players, and it's the big players that are generally making moves that are noteworthy and have long-standing
Right.
impact.